He did not even look at her when he spoke. The billionaire leaned back in his chair, smiled like he owned the air in the room, and ordered in a foreign language just loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Then he laughed because the black waitress froze for half a second, and that was the moment he expected her to shrink. What he never expected was her reply. Before we continue, please like and subscribe and let us know where you're watching from. The restaurant was called Loom, not a chain, not a brand you'd see on billboards. It was the kind of place where the lighting was soft enough to hide secrets and the menus were heavy enough to feel like a promise. Crystal glasses caught gold candlelight. Quiet music floated like perfume. Even the chairs seemed trained to keep their voices low. Nia Arkafer, 24, moved through it all like someone walking a tightrope in polished shoes that never really fit. Her uniform was clean, her hair neatly tied back, her name tag straight, but behind her calm face was a mind that never stopped counting. Rent due in 9 days. Her mother's blood pressure medicine that she kept stretching longer than the bottle allowed. The community college tuition payment that was 2 weeks late. And the small, private dream she'd protected like a candle in a storm. She wanted to be a professional interpreter, not because it sounded impressive, but because words had always made sense to her in a world that often did not. When she was tired, she practiced anyway. On the bus home, while washing dishes, while waiting for the kettle to boil, she saved audio clips on an old phone and repeated phrases under her breath until they felt natural on her tongue. That night, she had 3 subtle things tucked into her routine, small details she didn't realize would matter later. First, she always clipped her pen to the inside seam of her apron, not the outside. She had learned the hard way that pens disappeared in busy restaurants. Second, she always noted the table number on the corner of her order pad before she wrote anything else. It kept her steady when things got chaotic. Third, she knew the one security camera in the main dining room that actually worked, because the manager complained about it every time he walked past the monitor near the back hallway. Only one worth anything, he'd mutter, as if the camera were a lazy employee. When the hostess approached, her voice polite but tight, Nia already knew what the assignment meant. Table 12, the hostess whispered. Vamp. Nia's stomach dipped. Table 12 was the window table. Best view, most visible. The kind of table that made other diners glance over as if fame might rub off. A man sat there with 2 guests, and a quiet authority that seemed to push the air away from him. He wore a dark suit that looked like it had never been wrinkled in its life. His watch caught the light with every movement of his hand, deliberate and slow. Across from him sat a woman in an elegant dress, posture perfect, smile carefully measured. Beside them sat a younger man in a blazer, eyes sharp, phone face down but always within reach. And then there was the little sign on the reservation stand that Nia had read earlier when she passed. A Roth pilot. She didn't know the face, but she knew the type. The kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself because the whole room already felt it. Her manager, Mr. Halden, hovered nearby like a man standing too close to a fire. He wore a smile that did not reach his eyes. Nia, he said softly, do everything right. Understand? Table 12 is important. Nia nodded. I understand. She walked over, shoulders straight, voice warm. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Nia, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. The billionaire did not look up. He lifted his eyes only to scan her name tag, the way some people checked labels on products. Water, he said. Still or sparkling? Nia asked. He finally looked at her. Not like she was a person. Like she was a test. Still, he said. Then turned to his guests with an easy smile. They always ask that question as if it matters. The woman across from him gave a small laugh, more polite than amused. The younger man's mouth twitched, like he wanted to laugh, but wasn't sure if he was allowed. Nia didn't react. She set the water down gently, placed the glasses the way she'd been trained, and waited for the rest of the order. That's when he did it. He switched languages mid-sentence, smooth and confident, and his voice rose just enough to carry. He spoke in French, clean and practiced, not the kind you learn from apps. The kind you learn from living with it. Je vais prendre le canard, he said, then added, slower, like a performance, at dis lui de faire attention. Certain persons ne comprennent pas les choses simples. Tell her to be careful. Some people don't understand simple things. He said it like a joke, like a clever trick. He didn't even bother to hide the smirk. Nia paused for half a beat, not because she didn't understand, because she understood perfectly. Around them, other tables went quieter, forks slowed. People pretended not to listen while listening harder. The manager's eyes darted toward Nia, pleading without words, "Please just let it go." Nia felt the familiar burn in her chest, the one that came when someone tried to push her into a smaller version of herself. She had felt it in classrooms when teachers spoke over her. She had felt it at the pharmacy when people assumed she couldn't pay. She had felt it at job interviews when smiles froze the moment she walked into the room. But she didn't let it rise into her voice. She didn't stiffen. She didn't shrink. She simply smiled, small, professional, and answered in French. "Bien sûr, monsieur," she said calmly. "Et pour être certain, vous voulez le canard saisi, sauce aux agrumes, avec le gratin de pommes de terre, ou préférez-vous la version confite, qui prend un peu plus de temps?" "Of course, sir. And to be sure, do you want the seared duck with citrus sauce and potato gratin, or do you prefer the confit version, which takes a little longer?" His smile faltered, just slightly. The woman across from him blinked, then looked at Nia like she was seeing her for the first time. The younger man's eyebrows lifted before he could stop them. Nia didn't stop there. Her tone stayed gentle, but her precision sharpened like a blade made of velvet. "Et je puis aussi vous recommander un vin qui s'accorde mieux," she added. "Celui que vous avez choisi est excellent, mais il écrase un peu les notes du plat. And I can recommend a wine that pairs better. The one you chose is excellent, but it overwhelms the flavors of the dish." A hush settled over the table. The billionaire Mr. Roth leaned forward a fraction, the fragile thing inside him suddenly alert. His eyes narrowed, measuring. "You speak French," he said, in English now, voice controlled. "Yes," Nia replied. "I do." "How?" he asked, and the question was not curiosity. It was irritation disguised as interest. Nia kept her smile. "I've been studying languages for a long time." The younger man beside him shifted, uncomfortable. The woman's gaze moved from Nia to Mr. Roth, then back. A couple at the nearby table whispered. Someone at the bar turned their head fully now, no longer pretending. Mr. Roth leaned back again, but now his posture was different. A man like him didn't like surprises, and he liked being corrected even less. He tapped the table once with his index finger, slow, like a warning. "Fine," he said. "The seared duck." Nia nodded and wrote it down. She made sure, as always, that the corner of her pad read 12. As she turned to leave, Mr. Roth added something quietly, too quietly, in French again, aimed like a pin. "C'est mignon," he murmured. "Quand quelqu'un essaie de paraître plus intelligent qu'il ne l'est." Is cute, when someone tries to look smarter than they are. Nia did not flinch. She simply paused, turned her head slightly, and replied in French with the same calm. "L'intelligence n'est pas un costume," she said. "Ça se porte toujours." Intelligence isn't a costume. You wear it all the time. The woman across from him inhaled sharply, as if that landed somewhere deep. Nia walked away, heart steady, hands not shaking. But inside, she felt the tension coil. People like Mr. Roth didn't accept being embarrassed. They returned it with interest. In the kitchen, she passed Mr. Halden, who caught her arm. "What was that?" he hissed, eyes wide. "It was a normal order," Nia said quietly. "You know what I mean," he snapped. Then he forced his smile back on as another server walked by. Just be careful. That man is connected. Connected. Like that was a magic word that changed right and wrong. Nia pulled her arm gently free. "I'm doing my job." Mr. Halden stared at her for a moment, like he couldn't decide whether to respect her or punish her. She went back out, delivered bread, checked on other tables, kept moving, but every time she glanced toward table 12, she saw Mr. Roth watching her, not openly, not obviously, like a hunter waiting for a stumble. Then the first retaliation came, wrapped in politeness. When Nia returned to pour water, Mr. Roth's glass was already half full. You poured it wrong, he said. Nia paused. I'm sorry. It's too much, he said, voice loud enough for the nearby tables. Are you trained? Or do they just put anyone in a uniform? Nia kept her face smooth. I can replace it, if you'd prefer. He waved a hand like she was annoying background noise. Just try not to drown us. The younger man beside him looked down at his napkin, suddenly fascinated by folding it. The woman's eyes flicked toward Nia with something that looked like sympathy she didn't know how to offer. Nia nodded once and stepped away. She knew this game. The goal wasn't the water. The goal was to make her react. A few minutes later, Mr. Howden approached Nia near the service station. Table 12 says you're being disrespectful, he said, already tense. Nia stared at him. Disrespectful how? He says you're correcting him, talking down to him. Mr. Howden's voice lowered. Nia, please. This place can't afford trouble. Nia's throat tightened. I haven't been disrespectful. Mr. Howden's gaze slid away. Just keep your head down. Keep your head down. The sentence that had been used to bury people alive without ever touching a shovel. Nia returned to table 12 with the duck order confirmed and the wine recommendation ready, because she refused to let anyone force her into careless work. Mr. Roth looked up, and for the first time, his smile returned. But it wasn't friendly. It was satisfied. When Nia placed the wine list down, Mr. Roth moved his wrist slightly, and his watch caught the candle light again. It was a beautiful piece, sleek, subtle, expensive enough that even people who didn't know watches would know it was worth more than their car. Nia didn't comment. She didn't stare. She didn't care. But she did notice something else. The younger man's phone, face down on the table, had a small red light blinking at the corner. Recording indicator. Nia's eyes flicked to it and away. She kept her face neutral. Then Mr. Roth's voice sharpened. My watch, he said suddenly. The word cracked through the quiet like a dropped plate. The woman across from him looked down. The younger man's head lifted instantly. What about it? The woman asked. It's gone, Mr. Roth said, eyes locked on Nia now. It was on my wrist. Now it's not. Nia's pulse stayed steady, but her stomach turned cold. That's impossible, Nia said softly. I haven't touched you. Mr. Roth stood up slowly, chair scraping. Heads turned across the dining room. The air changed. Do you think I don't know when something is taken from me? He asked. His voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. Everyone saw you leaning near the table. Everyone saw your hands. Nia looked around. People avoided her eyes. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked curious. Some looked hungry for drama. Mr. Howden appeared at the edge of the scene almost immediately, like he'd been waiting for this moment. His face was pale. What's happening? He asked, but he already knew. Mr. Roth didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. My watch is missing, he said. And your waitress is the only person who's been close enough. Mr. Howden's gaze snapped to Nia. Then, painfully, it flickered with doubt that should not have existed. Nia, he began. Nia's voice stayed calm, but it carried. I did not take anything, she said. Mr. Roth tilted his head. Then you won't mind being searched. The room seemed to hold its breath. The humiliation wasn't in the accusation alone. It was in the public demand, the assumption that her body was a place people could inspect for stolen goods. Nia felt heat rise behind her eyes, but she did not let it show. She drew a slow breath. I won't mind the truth, she said evenly, but I do mind being treated like a criminal without proof. Mr. Howden swallowed. Nia, maybe we should just what? Nia asked softly, still calm. Let him do this to me because he's important. Mr. Howden's eyes darted around the room, trapped between money and morality. Mr. Roth's smile returned again, thin. Call security, he said. A security guard in a dark suit stepped forward from the back hallway. He looked uncertain, but he moved because he was told to move. Nia could feel the walls closing in. If she refused, she'd look guilty. If she agreed, she'd be violated in public and labeled forever. And then, like a small door opening in a locked room. She remembered the details. The working camera, the blinking light on the phone, the way Mr. Roth's movements were too smooth, too practiced. Nia turned her head slightly toward the bar area, where the only security monitor sat behind a decorative wall. She couldn't see the screen from here, but she knew where it was. Before anything happens, she said, voice level, check the security footage. Mr. Roth's eyes flickered for a fraction of a second, just once. But Nia saw it. Mr. Haldin hesitated. The cameras. There's one that works, Nia said, gently but firmly. You complain about it every week. A few diners murmured. Mr. Haldin flushed, caught. Mr. Roth's voice became silk. That will take time. Meanwhile, the watch could disappear. Nia looked at the security guard. Sir, please stand here, she said calmly, and make sure no one leaves this table area until we review the footage. That protects everyone. The guard blinked, thrown off by her composure. Then he nodded. Mr. Roth's jaw tightened slightly. That's not your decision. It's common sense, Nia replied. At that moment, a man at a nearby table stood up, mid-50s, neat haircut, glasses, posture like someone used to classrooms and courtrooms more than dying rooms. I'm sorry, he said, raising a hand politely. I didn't mean to interfere, but this is getting serious. Mr. Haldin turned. Sir, please. The man looked at Nia first, respectful. Then he addressed the manager. My name is Dr. Elias Monroe, he said. I teach forensic linguistics and interpretation ethics at the local university. The word university changed the way people listened. Dr. Monroe looked toward Mr. Roth, and I have to say, I heard the earlier exchange. This young woman didn't correct anyone. She clarified, and her fluency was not performative. It was accurate. Mr. Roth's eyes narrowed. Who asked you? Dr. Monroe stayed calm. No one, but when a false accusation is being built in public, sometimes someone should speak before damage is done. The younger man at Mr. Roth's table shifted in his seat. The woman's fingers tightened around her napkin. Mr. Haldin looked overwhelmed. Dr. Monroe, we appreciate. Then check the footage, Dr. Monroe said. Immediately. In situations like this, time makes lies bolder. Mr. Roth's smile vanished. This is ridiculous. Nia kept her eyes on the manager. Please, she said. I want this cleared. Mr. Haldin swallowed hard, then nodded. Okay. We'll check. He hurried toward the back hallway. The security guard followed him. Nia stayed where she was, hands visible, posture steady. The room buzzed now, quiet whispers like insects in tall grass. People watched without blinking. A few faces held sympathy, a few held judgment. Mr. Roth leaned toward Nia, his voice low enough that it would sound intimate to anyone watching, but it wasn't. You could have stayed quiet, he murmured. You could have let it pass. Nia met his eyes. I did stay quiet, she said softly, until you tried to take my dignity. Mr. Roth's mouth tightened. Dignity doesn't pay bills. Nia's expression didn't change, but her voice sharpened just slightly. Neither does cruelty. At the back, Mr. Haldin returned with the security guard and a tablet pulled from the office live access to the one working camera. Mr. Haldin's hands shook as he tapped the screen. Table 12 angles, not perfect, but the room leaned in without moving. On the grainy video, the table was visible, candlelight flickering. Nia appeared at the edge of the frame, placing the wine list down. Mr. Roth gestured. His wrist with the watch flashed. Then, clear as day, as Nia stepped away, Mr. Roth's left hand moved to his right wrist in one smooth motion. He slid the watch off quickly, hidden by the edge of the menu. He didn't put it in his pocket. He placed it in the fold of his napkin. And then, even clearer, the younger man beside him lifted his phone for a second, screen angled downward, and with his other hand, he slid the napkin watch inside into the side of a leather bag hanging from his chair. Not clumsy, not accidental, coordinated. The dining room made a sound all at once, an inhale, a gasp, a wave of disbelief that rose like a sudden wind. Mr. Houghton stared at the screen as if it might change. The security guard's eyes widened. Doctor, Monroe spoke quietly, but his voice carried. There it is. A concealment action. Deliberate. The woman across from Mr. Roth stood up slowly, chair scraping. Her face looked pale now. Not elegant. Adrian, she said, voice tight. What is that? Mr. Roth's face went still. The younger man's hand moved instinctively toward the bag, and the security guard stepped forward immediately. Sir, the guard said, firmer now, please don't touch that. The younger man froze. Mr. Houghton's voice shook. Mr. Roth, is this? Mr. Roth's gaze swept the room. He was calculating, searching for a way out, but the evidence was too clean. Too simple, too public, and then the final planted detail snapped into place like a lock turning. The blinking red light on the phone. Nia looked at the younger man. You were recording, she said quietly. His eyes flicked away. Doctor, Monroe nodded once, grim. That light indicates active capture on many devices. If he was recording the exchange, it may also have captured the concealment. The woman at the table looked like her body suddenly didn't want to belong to him anymore. She reached for her purse, hands trembling. I cannot believe you, she whispered to Mr. Roth. This was you planned this. Mr. Roth's voice remained low, but it cracked at the edges. Sit down. She didn't. She turned to Nia, eyes glossy with shame. I'm sorry, she said, and the apology sounded real, painful. Then she looked at Mr. Houghton. If you let this disappear, I will personally make sure people know what kind of place this is. Mr. Houghton swallowed, eyes wide. That was the moment his stance shifted complicit to uncomfortable to choosing truth. Security. Mr. Houghton said, voice stronger now. Retrieve the watch from the bag. Now. The guard reached down carefully, opened the side pocket while everyone watched, and pulled out the napkin. The watch slid into view, glittering under candlelight like a confession. A murmur rippled through the room, this time not curiosity, but disgust. Mr. Roth's face flushed, then hardened. He turned on Nia, trying to regain control with the only tool left, power. You think you've won? He snapped quietly. You think a little footage changes anything? I can still ruin you. Nia looked at him, calm as ever. You tried, she said softly, and you failed in front of everyone. Mr. Houghton stepped between them, something protective in his posture now. Mr. Roth, he said, voice tight, you need to leave. Mr. Roth laughed once, sharp and bitter. You're throwing out a man who pays more in one dinner than you make in a month. Mr. Houghton's face reddened, but he didn't back down. I'm throwing out a man who tried to frame my employee. The word employee mattered. Not waitress, not girl, employee, human. The woman from the table turned and walked away without looking back at Mr. Roth. The younger man stayed frozen, trapped in the shame of being caught on camera. A few diners shook their heads openly now. One person near the bar whispered, That's evil. Mr. Roth stood there, the room finally seeing him without the glow of wealth. Just a man with a fragile ego and a reckless need to win. Dr. Monroe stepped forward, voice still measured. Miss Ockhaffer, he said, if you'd like, I can write a statement, and I can also request a copy of that footage for you. You have rights here. Nia nodded slowly. Thank you. Mr. Houghton looked at Nia, regret in his eyes. Nia, I'm sorry I hesitated. Nia didn't gloat. She didn't punish him with a speech. She just spoke the truth. I needed you to believe me, she said quietly. That's all. Mr. Houghton nodded, throat tight. I do. The security guard escorted Mr. Roth toward the exit. Cameras from phones rose, but no one cheered. The room felt heavy, like everyone was processing how close injustice had come to winning. And then, as Mr. Roth reached the door, he turned back one last time. His eyes locked on Nia. You're just a waitress, he said, voice low, venom wrapped in control. Don't forget your place. Nia held his gaze without blinking. I know my place, she said calmly. It's wherever my integrity stands. The door closed behind him. The room exhaled. Later, in the quiet after the storm, Mr. Haldon pulled Nia aside near the back hallway. His hands shook slightly, like the adrenaline was still inside him. "I want to make this right," he said. "Paid time off. And if you want to file a report, I'll support it." Nia nodded. "I do want a report filed." "We'll do it," he promised. Then he hesitated. "Also, I didn't know about your languages." Nia gave a small smile, tired but steady. "Most people don't ask." "Doctor." Monroe approached with a business card. "Nia," he said gently, "I meant what I said earlier. Your French was excellent. Not memorized. Not rehearsed. You have the kind of ear you can't teach." Nia's chest tightened. "Thank you," he continued. "My department has a scholarship fund for students pursuing interpretation and translation. It's competitive, but I want you to apply. And I'd like to recommend you personally." Nia stared at the card in her hand like it might vanish. I work a lot," she said, almost apologizing for her own life. "Doctor." Monroe nodded like he understood. "Then we'll work around it. Talent should not be punished for being tired." Nia swallowed hard. She thought of her mother's medicine, her tuition, the way her dream kept flickering, but never went out. "Mr. Haldon cleared his throat, suddenly uncomfortable in a good way. "And Nia," he said, "I want you training new staff on proper service communication. You're calm under pressure. That matters." Nia nodded. "Okay." That night, she walked out of Loom with her shoulders still straight, but her steps lighter. The injustice had been loud, public, and sharp, but so had the truth. And the truth had not needed shouting to win. Because dignity is not something someone gives you. It's something you refuse to drop, even when the world tries to knock it out of your hands. If you're carrying a private burden and someone tries to make you feel small, remember this. The loudest people in the room are not always the strongest. Character is quiet. Integrity is steady. And sometimes the reply you thought you'd never get to say becomes the moment everyone finally hears you. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And if you believe dignity should never be negotiable, please like and subscribe for more stories like this.